Classic Star Wars.
Just so everybody knows.
Welcome to streaming. Nope, that's not it. Damn it, every time. Welcome to Force Connect.
Yes.
On the streaming Star Wars network. That's
That'll
what we
do.
call this show now.
That'll
You know,
do.
if we didn't change it all the time, maybe I'd remember. Or if I just wasn't old and feeble of the mind. Happy Friday. Welcome to Force Connect. As always, I am one of your hosts, Nick Milkey, and I am joined, as always, also by my good friend Pete. Pete, how are we doing tonight?
We are awesome. We are doing really good. It's I'll continue last week's theme. It's cold as hell here in New Jersey. But not as cold as like I got friends up in like New Hampshire who are like, yeah, we just hope we don't die tonight. So but other than that, I'm good. I'm not going to do the old man weather thing like last week, even though I already did. So that's okay. I'll throw it back to you and to Chris before I start talking about pills.
That's right.
And AARP membership,
your back problems and all that stuff. Well, speaking of other people who are glad to be a part of Generation X-Wing like us, I am also joined tonight by our other co-host, the wonderful Mr. Chris Ryans. Christopher, how are you this evening?
Oh, I'm doing great. I miss my Lando puppet. How are you guys doing?
I miss your Lando puppet too.
Yeah. I miss your Lando puppet too.
You think I'd be able to use it, but.
But it's a crazy world. Lots of things.
I love when people try to like say an idea is their own on the internet. Where I
understand, but at least I'm the right shade to be, impersonating Land, Billy D.
Facts. Brian gets it too. Brian's in the chat. He gets it too.
Well, but I'll tell you what, it is my favorite time of the week, hanging out with my old smoothies. So it's
absolutely
great hanging out with you guys.
Well, we have got a fun show on tap tonight. We're going to talk about. There's a pretty good amount of news this week, especially in the toy realm, which we're going to jump into that here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
I know Chris is excited. We're all excited. We're going to dig into that. We're also going to talk about the special editions. That was such a huge pivotal moment in Star Wars pre-Disney buyout. Post Dark Times, it was kind of that lead in to what we would get with the prequels.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to dig into that with y'all tonight. But before we do, as always, we've got a little bit of housekeeping to get to. Merch, t-shirts, all that fun stuff. That's right. Representing Force Connect, the Bad Backs. Some of these designs may or may not currently be available. But if you go to streamingstarwars.com, that is your one-stop shop, not only to shop for merchandise, but to find out where we are on social media, to join our Patreon program. If you're a patron, thank you so much for supporting us, for supporting the work that we do. If you're not a patron, we'd love for you to consider joining for as little as $3 a month. You get to join us anytime we record live interviews for Around the Galaxy, kind of see the story, see the interview ahead of time. We also have other perks. We send out stuff through the mail a few times a year. We try to do meet and greets. We try to make it a really good experience for those that throw their dollars our way to support the work that we do and the fun that we like to have. So thank you to those of you that do that. And if you don't do that, we'd love for you to check it out. All of that stuff is on streamingstarwars.com, as I mentioned. Also, Facebook especially. Share us on Facebook. Facebook.com/streaming Star Wars. We're trying to build up that community a little bit more. I put the link out there for the show tonight, so maybe we'll get some viewers off of our Facebook page. All the links to all the places we are on the screen. If you're listening to the audio version this next week, just go to streamingstarwars.com. It'll tell you how to find us. It's like what's it called in Rise of Skywalker? It's not a hologram. It's a wayfinder for where we are on the internet.
That's one of the many issues I have.
That's going to be a show one time. We're going to do a fun version of that show at some point. I'm telling you right now. But in the meantime, I'm excited that y'all are here tonight. I know we've got some friends hanging out with us. I see Jasmine. I see Eric. I see Dale. I see Brian. I know we've got some other folks that are going to hang out tonight. And don't forget, the main feature of Force Connect is that you, the viewer, are also potentially our guest. So we're going to drop that link. I'm sure Pete's going to drop it right now, but we're going to drop the link in the chat throughout the show. Call in. If any of the segments we're talking about speak to you, if you have a thought, a passion, whatever it is, jump in, call in, talk to us. We want to hear from you. Sports Talk Radio for Star Wars. Yep. We want you to be a part of the conversation. So let's do that tonight. Let's have a good time. And before we go any farther, we've swapped roles a little bit tonight. I'm going to pitch it over to my good friend, Mr. Pete Fletzer, because he has our toast for us this evening.
I have the toast, and it's not a place I normally am. So I just like partaking in the toast after a moment. But put under a little bit of pressure, I'm going to go with I want to do a toast to a friend of this group, a friend of a lot of people who listen to us, a lot of our followers. I want to do a quick toast to our friend Chase. And I know Chase he's from Pink Milk. He's also got a number of other things. He got his panel selected for London, where he's going to be talking about the sort of the history of Dragon, its connection to Star Wars. And of course, a lot of numbskulls. Yes, I use the word numbskulls because I don't want to drop F-bombs this early in the show.
I was about to ask
they went after him, and they went after the whole thing, and he handled it with such grace and dignity. I'm very impressed. I am very proud to call them a friend. And so this is not just for Chase, but it's for anybody who's dealing with adversity and handles it with grace and can lean on friends when they need them. So cheers.
And today is also Chase's birthday, by the way. So
there you go.
Double
Happy
toast
birthday to Chase.
Cheers to Chase.
There you go.
Excellent toast, well deserved, and I second everything you said. Chase is a good friend to all of us, has been on most, if not all, of our shows. And I said this before when we had I think when we had the TRB folks on right after Celebration and kind of recapping the week. I met a bunch of weird space friends out at Celebration. That was the point of my trip. That was the journey that I was really most to go on. Chase was one of the people that I got to meet. And I don't think there's anybody at Celebration that I met that gives better hugs than Chase Hauser.
Like, there you go.
Every time I ran it, and I saw him like just randomly in the hall. I was like, oh my gosh, again, like he had just seen me for the first time. So genuine, so nice, so excited. So I am thrilled for his panel and what he's going to be able to do and talk about and share in London. And we're just going to send all of our good Force energy with him when he goes.
Absolutely. Well,
awesome.
If you're ready, we're going to take a real quick break. And when we come back, we're going to turn it over to Chris, who happens to know a little bit about toys and comics. That's where the big news was this week. There's a lot of news, but we want to talk about all the toys and collectibles that were dropped. But we're going to do that when we come back with more Force Connect right after this.
Are you a adult who's never grown up like me and just love their action figures and their toys? Well, come on, we're going to talk about everything that came out this week. So I want to start off talking about the probably the best thing that has come out. Now, I don't like to rank things, best, worst, yada yada. But the best thing to come out, and I woke up to this news thanks to Nick, and that was a helmet for my favorite design for a stormtrooper out of all the amazing designs that there have been, even in this this post Disney era, is the Biker Scout, and that that helmet, I was like, I've been waiting for that in like the Phase 3 clone. But yeah, look at that. Look at that, it's magnificent. But that's like my favorite design. I am so glad that thing is coming out. And I saw it and I said, I yelled, damn it, with a smile on my face. Because I'm like, I'm getting one. It's going to be like $200. And but it's totally worth it. I have to have it. It's gotta go with my Vader.
It's going to be in the same price range as the Black Series, all the other Black Series helmets. So I guess it'll be what, around 129, 150.
I expect 129.
SRP at 120. Like I'll tell you, those things. I order those and whatnot for like other people, friends at the store, or whatever. The markup on those is very, very low. Yeah, so I know that from what it costs. So I know that when I get it, I'm probably gonna have to pay hefty, way more than 120 when that thing comes out. Worth it.
Yeah, and the other helmet that I remember seeing, which I can't believe is listed, and it has not made a lot of noise, is the Ahsoka Clone Trooper helmet.
Yes,
which was on that
list as well. As one of the pipeline.
Yeah,
when they do these Hasbro events, they'll show the things that they've got coming most immediately, and then they'll do a little tease, and they always call it pipeline, things we've got coming up farther down the line. And I think there were 2 figures, and then the third one on the far right side was a Black Series. Was it 332nd? Is that what the Ahsoka division is?
Yeah.
That helmet. And it's funny, and Chris, you brought it up because I, of course, texted you, because there are very few things that I, aside from the vintage posters and the artwork and the things that I love to collect, of the helmets, I don't have a glorious helmet wall like Pete does. I have
the
classic Stormy, because that's the one I always wanted.
Right.
Then I have a clone, like the cheap $20 clone trooper that my parents found at like an auction somewhere, the original one. But I have said, because I had Darth Vader, I had Boba Fett, and I sold them. I just was like, I have them. They don't super bring me joy. That's fine. But I have said, aside from the classic Stormtrooper, the only helmet that I've really ever dying to have is that Scout Trooper. And I knew with the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi coming up, it has to be our time. Like, it's got to happen.
Yeah.
That said, I do currently have the Phase 2 Clone Trooper on pre-order.
Nice.
And when I saw the Ahsoka helmet, I thought, I'm probably going to get that. And I'll be honest, I didn't care about the Boba Fett helmet, but I'm pretty sure I need a Mando helmet in my life. And at some point, I'm going to have to make that one happen.
Well, you got to imagine that with the next Mando series, season, with all the Mandalorians that are coming out there, they're going to be repurposing both the Bo-Katan helmet and the Paz Vizsla helmet as much as they possibly can.
Well, like you've said before, it's just a good old repaint.
Yep. And
one thing that was cool. All right, so they also revealed some pops that are going to be coming out fairly soon. And I ordered these months ago, and I ordered them in droves because I have problems. But it's for Return of the Jedi. Like you guys are saying, I've been waiting for 2023 to happen because I know that's going to be the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. So everything was going to have someone from ROTJ, and I've been waiting for this. There are variant covers dedicated to Return of the Jedi. And now there's going to be some Funko Pops that are coming out. They're going to be, dedicated to. So there's a whole run. Wicket, I think they're doing General Calrissian on that one. They've got Han and Luke and Leia. Boushh is on her, Boushh, whichever. There's a climactic one where it's Vader and Luke fighting on the Death Star. Yes. There's Jabba on his dais with Salacious Crumb. There's so many of those, but. I just put in a pre-order. Now I texted you guys about this. I'm like, yep, I just did it. So here we go. But unfortunately, there are no character names on it. But it's just that they're coming, and so I just pre-ordered all the Ahsoka pops for the series. Those are the drop date on those is in October of this year. So we're probably looking at a summer release for that show because nothing's been said as far as the release.
Correct. They haven't given any release dates for anything other than Mando and now Visions. But
Visions season 2 that got announced this week.
So based on what you know as a toy and pop expert and thinking about the timing, if it's an October drop, you're thinking it's a
summer.
summer show.
Yeah.
And they usually drop after the show's over, so the show should be done by October, right? So
yeah. I wish it would drop the the pops and all the other action figures and stuff when the show's out, when it's hot, but they always wait a few months later for everything to die down before they do that. But yeah, so that, and there was because I was checking Yak Face's site. There's a few other things. There's the Obi-Wan Kenobi from the series that's coming out for the Japanese Bandai company SH Figure Arts. That one's coming out, and those are always hyper detailed. You're gonna have a whole bunch of different accessories and like different hands. Maybe another face to to go with that.
it's Hans. It's Hans.
It's Hans. You are correct, sir. Wow.
The detailed Hans.
Detailed Hans. Let's see. We've got Black Series Jesse, the clone trooper.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Vintage collection of Return of the Jedi. Darth Vader. Because I could always use another Vader figure, but this one
I say there's a couple of Darth Vaders that drop.
Yeah. But this one is Vader with I don't know if you can see it. It's Vader with his hand is chopped off. So we're talking.
Oh yeah.
Post that fight with Luke.
Mm-hmm.
And a Mando. Yeah. And there's another Mando figure coming out. It's like one of those prototype ones. It's like multicolored.
Yep.
Yeah. One of those. So
let me ask you this question about action figures, Chris, because obviously the three of us grew up in that Generation X-Wing. We had, original figures, original toys, vintage Kenner, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear, certainly from your perspective as somebody who works in collectibles and, this is a part of your business and also a collector. Max Rebo. Yeah. I may have to get an article, that's got to happen. Talk to me about the state of action figures right now and how you feel, because we have a bunch of stuff. We have Black Series figures, which are the 6-inch figures, pretty detailed, computer modeling, some of that kind of stuff. We also had the vintage collection, which is the 3 3/4 line, but it's kind of like, in a theory, a step up from like the classic, retro figures, closer to Power of the Force, but more realistic, a little bit more hyper realistic than the cartoony big buff Luke and Han and that kind of thing. Yeah. And then we've also gotten in recent years the retro collection, which is just using those old original molds, nostalgia's sake, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't really like any of the new action figures. I know people that have gone through Black Series modes, and honestly, I had a bunch of the retro figures for a long time. But it became that thing of like, once I had them, I didn't care about them anymore. It was just the chase of getting them. And then I was like, I don't care. So I sold them all. How do you feel just kind of overall with the state of, Star Wars action figures? And then I want to throw it to you too, as well, Pete, because I know you're sitting on a mountain of Power of Force figures in your basement and, that kind of thing. But I'm curious your thoughts about that.
Yeah. I'm still a big fan of all the figures. Like, the vintage collection, I've sort of, just personally have dialed back on. Like, I'll still get it for for Geek John, but I've dialed back on it for like for myself. Black Series, I still love what they're doing with the Black Series figures. I do think they need to really expand, and I know they've got a handful, and I mean like a handful. We're talking like 5, maybe 7, like comic book characters and stuff like that. But I understand, like, it's not going to be a definite sale, but they should do stuff from, like, more stuff from the comics, more stuff from the novels, so that people can see what these characters look like. Hopefully they're going to get into like High Republic stuff soon. The one thing that I do want to get on is the Hot Toys. I've never gotten a Hot Toys figure, but I think right now the Star Wars merch is thriving. I think it's fantastic. I just think they need to expand more outside of the movies and the TV shows, and show every.
And that brings up a good point. Brian put one in the chat as well. Another figure they announced was the Revenge of the Jedi poster figure, Darth Vader.
Yeah.
It's the Vader, and it's that really stylized, with the red. Yes. And again, I don't collect that line or really any of those figures from that, but kind of like the what's the white Vader called? Infinities.
Yeah, the Infinity's one. Don't. Yeah,
kind of
I gotta send that.
Kind of like that
yeah.
one. Kind of like that one. I feel like I need this Revenge of the Jedi Vader as well because it's unique. It stands out more than collecting a whole Black Series line or collecting a whole. Like my line at this point with new modern toys is if it's really unique, or that's redundant, I guess, really unique. But if it's unique versus just having a whole line, like the prototype retro figures. Like for a second, I was like, well, I'll just get those. I don't need all the other retro figures. And then I ended up selling the retro prototypes that I had too, because ultimately I just didn't care that much. But the things that are super unique and super different, I think, fill a different void.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've gone up and down in the figures. I last summer sold an entire box of Black Series just because it just got the prices went up on them. They all went up from like $23 to $27, and there's the one. Yep, the Jedi one. So, but I think it goes back and forth, but it's kind of why I like the pops, because they're $12. They're stupid. I can take them out of their box and not ruin the box and keep it and put it, So, and pops, I don't know. They're just, I don't know what it is about those stupid things. That just
sore subject for Pete.
Yeah. I literally
precious moments for nerds.
I have my entire collection up for sale, but I keep buying pops. I don't understand what's happening. I was at a comic book show this past weekend, and I talked to a couple of the guys. I was like, "Hey, do you buy collections?" And most of them were like, "Yeah, probably won't give you what you want." And in my head, I'm like, "I'll take a bag of peanuts. Let me just I'll trade you for that." But and then I was like, "But you know what? I'm gonna get that B2 emo right now, and then I'll pull that out." So why don't we hear from? We do have a couple callers on the line. Why don't we bring one in and hear what their thoughts are on the latest drop of action figures?
Go for Papa Palpatine.
You have a collect call from
Darth Vader.
I gotta take this. Hold on.
There he is.
There he is.
Back for another week. Eric, what's up?
3 weeks
dude?
in a row, brother. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I wanted to not really focus on the figures. I wanted to talk about other things that have been brought up. Like, I do love the Bike Scout Trooper. That's a great design. Yep. My personal favorite Stormtrooper design is the Shore Trooper. I'm sorry, the Coastal Defense Stormtrooper.
We got to wait for the 20th anniversary, though, of
that's right.
Rogue One.
Rogue One.
Before we get that
I just love the light, like grayish blue accents. I love the color scheme. I love the helmet shape. I love the nonsensical like leg capes in the back. It's so silly, but I love it. I did want to shout out Chase, that gay Jedi. I'm glad that they're able to get this stage to talk about the connection between drag and Star Wars. I think that's amazing. I did reach out in the comments when they dropped the video. I'm just like, I'm glad. I'm proud of like your strength in this situation, that you've been bombarded. And I said, a lot of these, these angry Star Wars fans, they don't realize that drag is already in Star Wars. Harvey Keitel played Gormanda in Star Wars Holiday Special.
That's a great
all third whip actions. Long before, the rappers telling you how to whip in the pot, we had Gormanda showing us.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to talk about the special editions. Like, I'm too young to have seen the special editions in the theater, but I did have the golden box set that me and my dad would watch all the time. And, like, of course, who hasn't brought up, like, their, like, kind of bitchy modes of, like, Han shot first, and why is this Jawa hanging, dangling from here, and why is there a new song in Java's Palace? And for the most part, those are pretty dumb, but it's our dumb, and we love it.
Right. Sure. Yep.
Like we don't like if we actually hated it, we wouldn't want to be watching those cuts anymore. Like I have seen the more original cuts. I do have 95 VHSs. But if I want to just put on something quick, I'll just put on Disney Plus, and they'll have the most recent version, even the one with McClunky in it.
Exactly, and that's that gets beyond even special editions like we're talking about tonight. But then it's the rewind. Oh wait, George, and it's up to a certain point, it was his thing to get to go. You know what? Actually, I do want to do this other thing. So. It's fascinating, and I love hearing your perspective on that as somebody who was obviously way too young for those movies when they came out. Even when the special editions
my mother
came
was pregnant when those were coming out.
Exactly.
Well, you have a valid
I've
excuse
heard about
for not
this
being
thing.
there. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But like you have to understand, like in retrospect, like if you're not a part of like. When you were like a kid, you may not understand, like, this was their beginning. Just like how the original airings back in the 70s and 80s were their originals. And now, like, it's a new generation where, like, okay, then you have, like, the VHS generation. You have the standard DVD of 2004. Then, what was it? 2011 when the Blu-ray came out, and now we're in the streaming age. Like everyone has their first introduction to this this movie trilogy. It's the only one that's been like redone this many times, and like there's like no franchise that has this many versions of it. Not even like your favorite like indie like extended edition films have anything as numerous as the versions that had
exactly it.
And it's
being somebody like Peter, Chris, and I, growing up through the middle of all of it, you've got the videotapes, like you said, the gold special edition VHS tapes. You've got those DVDs when they came out, and then somewhere I've also got the 3-pack VHS set before the special editions that had the cases with the stars on them, and you get a little bit of everything. And it's so neat. And I agree with you too, Eric. Like, sometimes the path of least resistance is to pull up Disney Plus and just go, it's right here. I don't have to work to find it.
Right.
But it's neat to get the differing perspectives on, who has encountered it at what time. And I love hearing young folks like you go, yeah, it's weird that they did that. Even for, those of us who saw it originally and went, what the hell?
I thought it was weird until like I looked back at some of my old art, because I do a lot of drawing, and I look at some of my old pieces. I'm just like, it doesn't look right. It'll be from many years ago. And I'm just like, I could have done better on that. And there's been a few times where psychologically I just paint over it. There's been a few times I have done that, and the old copy will be like not as good quality because it's like a screenshot. It's not the actual like PDF or something like that. So like I do understand the idea of like you don't want to destroy art, and I think to be the most democratic and the best for moving forward would be to have every possible copy like readily available.
Oh sure.
But I know for like the first one, there's like some legal issues around it with like before it was like 20th Century Fox with some of the rights, and George Lucas. I know
when did it expire? Like it feels like it's reached like urban legend status, where when does that 20th Century Fox contract expire? Because we hear,
because Disney owns them now.
That's right. It doesn't matter. Eric, it's so good to see you tonight. Thank you for calling in as you do every week. We love hearing from you. We love hearing your perspective. We're going to send you on your way. We've got some more callers hanging out, and I think we're actually going to hit a break too.
One thing I would like to say is that Pete, you should get an intervention for your Funko Pop addiction.
I absolutely think I feel like one Friday night that's what's going to happen.
Don't listen.
He's an absolute.
I need my fix.
Get him, keep getting him, keep getting him, Pete. Woo!
Right.
Every time a new one drops, Pete's over there, tapping a vein.
No,
Yeah.
I love y'all.
Good to see you, Eric.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much, Eric.
Have a
We'll
great
talk
night.
to you next week, man. Bye.
See you, buddy.
I don't know what happened.
Look at that. Even the callers call in and call Pete out on his funkaholism.
They probably should. I mean, I'm just 1 week. We're probably going to get my wife calling in. Like, listen, I'm watching this for the first time,
Yep.
and I'm disgusted by it.
We're going to have to shut it all down.
We're going to have to shut it all down. We're going to take a real short break. When we come back, we're going to pick up this special edition conversation right where we were. But hang tight where you are, and we'll be right back in just a minute with more Force Connect.
For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all. Now, for its 20th anniversary, the adventure of a lifetime returns to the big screen in a way you've never seen before.
There'll be no one to stop us this time.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
With newly enhanced visual effects,
They're coming in too fast!
THX and digital sound, and a few new surprises.
Hanabuki Barbonyanda.
On President's Day weekend, 1997,
Good luck.
George Lucas and 20th Century Fox invite you to welcome back Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo, Darth Vader, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Chewbacca, C-3PO, and R2-D2. Finally, the motion picture event, the way it was meant to be experienced.
This will be a day long remembered.
As the entire Star Wars trilogy returns on February 14th, Star Wars, followed soon after by The Empire Strikes Back, and then Return of the Jedi.
Move closer!
For a whole new generation who have yet to experience it on the big screen. And for everyone else to experience it again.
That boy is our last hope.
No, there is another.
The Star Wars Trilogy, Special Edition. See it again for the first time.
The Force will be with you, always.
Ah, man, there it is. There it is. The special editions. And it's great. Chris is verklempt. We are talking special editions. I want to thank Eric for starting us down that road. Eric is really good at the transition. He went from toys, brought us straight to special editions, which is great. Maybe we'll have him produce the show. That would be great because it'd be less for us to
less chaotic than what
we
can
bring him up and he can talk because he's always got a better point than any of us. But special editions 1997 for the 20th anniversary of Star Wars A New Hope. Now, there's been the commercial says this is an interesting little point. I was looking it up during the break. The commercial says it was released President's Day weekend. However, it actually did come out January 31st, 1997. So we are within that week, which is sort of what inspired us to have this conversation. I remember the entire time. That was actually when I was writing for, and one of the reasons I ended up writing for Star Wars Galaxy magazine was because Steve Sansweet was so busy going from Star Trek show to Star Trek show, showing clips and talking about the special editions and all the things. Oh, look at that. Hey, it's a signed Pete Fletcher Star Wars Galaxy magazine.
That's an autographed copy of Star Wars Galaxy magazine by Pete Fletcher.
So those are rare. Those are rare because nobody wants them, and so they throw them out. But it was an interesting time because it really was, the generation that you see on your screen right now. This was the time where we got Star Wars coming back to us, but it was also a great time for people to discover it. Let me just share real quick, and then I want to hear from Chris, because Chris was telling us last night that he had an experience with that commercial that he wanted to share. But so I asked on Twitter today if if they had seen, if any of our followers had seen the special editions in the theaters, and if it was their first experience. Well, 78% of people saw them in the theaters that follow us. Now, of course, whatever.
Okay.
But 44% said that it was their first time seeing Star Wars in the theaters, which is why the special editions are so important, because it rekindled what really kind of is the driving force of the fandom today. But Chris, tell me about your experience with that commercial.
So I forgot what movie it was back in the 90s when my brother and I were, watching, went to the theater and whatnot, and they played that trailer. I think I may have seen it on TV first, like on VHS or something like that first, but seeing that trailer in the theater, like, and when it starts off with a little TV screen, and they're talking about Star Wars, and then when the X-wing busts through, let me just tell you what I was like in the theater as a kid seeing that, because I almost did it while I was watching it on the screen here, and like when that X-wing comes through, I was just like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" Like I'm losing my mind. Like this special edition thing. It was, to me, it was very, very special because, and they changed the date, but the first one was supposed to, like I said in the video, come out on February 14th.
Yep,
that's my birthday.
It is,
and and I was we're not there yet. Don't rush it. Don't rush it. But yeah, like I was like so happy, like, oh, it's coming out, it's on my birthday, and all that new stuff that they put in, and seeing all the, like, that one Jabba deleted scene with the with, I forgot that guy who played Jabba,
Declan McManus. Damn it.
Nerd.
Never mind.
Yeah,
I am. But I had trivia questions on deck, and that was one of them. And I just said,
but like,
Declan McManus was the stand-in for Jabba in that scene.
And seeing that, and seeing that they put in, or CGI Jabba in there, I was like, this is. I mean, it's literally like the announcer said, seeing it again for the first time. To me, I enjoyed it just as much as I did as a child watching those movies in the theater, because it broadened Star Wars, to a degree, and it very much was seeing it again for the first time, seeing those new scenes put in there, and changing up the rhythm of what I know of Star Wars, because I could do it, like, I'm a walking script when it comes to the Star Wars movies. Right. And this just like, it's like, and that's what was so different, like those scenes in there, and it just changed up the placements and the rhythm and everything of the movie, and like, this is new, this is the new Star Wars, and it was incredible. And especially after coming off that long drought of practically nothing, if you didn't play the role-playing games or read those Marvel comics, which I read a few of them here and there, or enjoyed Droids, the cartoon, like I very much did, just watch that over and over again. I just it was a fantastic time with those special editions. And there's only one negative to that for me, outside of the Jedi Rocks musical number.
Don't tell Scotty.
Scott, deal with the Scotty. Lapti-neck all day long. But it was the first time dealing with any kind of fan.
100%.
100%. Excellent point. And
that
I
really,
thought Pete might get here with it. I was to say, I thought this might be a direction that Pete takes us in, so I'm not going to jump into it. But it's interesting that this could have been the beginning of this kind of Star Wars, let's be pissed about Star Wars mode that we've been in for 26 years now.
Well, it was funny because you had the Ewoks in 1983, and I do remember friends that were my father's age kind of complaining a little bit, oh, those are for the kids, and it was the same Jar Jar argument. Yeah, part of these movies is for kids, and that's what it is. But yes, it really was the first time that we had the fans really taking a stand on something, and it might have been the beginning of gatekeeping for Star Wars, right? Like, it was the not my Han Solo sort of situation, right? So,
I mean, this is where all the Han shot first,
started from.
And
that's where it started.
And again, it's George Lucas's vision and what he wants to do with it, and it took me years to get there to say that. But honestly, I think that's what it is. We are getting a ton of callers calling in, so I'm going to bring in our first caller on this subject, or our second caller of the night, but our first one on this subject. So I'm gonna get that going. Here we go. At least I think I am. There.
Grief Karga said you were coming.
Another member of Generation X-Wing, another member who's ready to talk toys, special editions, the whole thing. Brian Fry in the house. How are you, sir?
Good. How are y'all?
Good.
Excellent. Glad to
so
see
good,
you.
man. Good to see you.
How are you not on Galaxy's the Galactic Cruiser right this minute? I mean, usually
we do have our Mardi Gras plans.
All right.
Our Hot Tongs Day plans. If you've seen our own shirts, our own merch for that. The Max Rebo Shake Your Rebooty shirts.
Love it.
We'll be down there celebrating Hot Tongs Day at the end of the month.
Awesome.
And it's funny how many people we see from real New Orleans there who have rented their houses out and gotten the F out of New Orleans. For
Can't really blame them, I would imagine.
So,
yeah. So what's your experience with the special editions, Brian?
Oh, here we go.
Oh, first of all.
But first.
Sorry, this was in the way.
Subtle flex.
Subtle flex.
For my birthday, well, actually the day after my birthday, New Hope was already shunted to the discount theaters, but Empire and Return of the Jedi were both in our bigger megaplex, multiplex. So my birthday that year, we had only been married just a few months, Holly and I, and we went theater hopping to see the trilogy in April 5th, 1997.
Amazing.
That was pretty fun.
Did either of you guys see all three in one day? I did it. I did it with my parents. I remember doing it in Sparta.
I did not see all three one day. And there are very few rooms that I get to be in these days where I'm the young one. But in this august gathering that's on the screen right now,
wow, yeah.
I was a senior in high school in 1997 in February when this came out. So I know. Sorry. That's the way it goes. So I did see them at my earliest possible convenience, but there were still some parental permissions, and being in Selma, Alabama, and not having the greatest movie theaters and having to drive 45 minutes away to Montgomery to get to the ones I needed. So I made it happen. It was a priority, but I didn't have the flexibility to, marathon the whole deal.
It's a calling.
But what was your reaction to the special editions as somebody who I believe you saw them in the theaters at the OG, but I'm making an assumption.
In this house, Holly has a Greedo shrine.
No.
So it was. She insists that Greedo was just flirting. She's always insisted that Greedo was just flirting with Han, but to have Han shoot first that was the way we grew up on it. To add Greedo getting a little shot in, I don't know, she was torn. Part of it was, she got a shot off, or Greedo got a shot off, but also that changed the original. So, and it was done, in mid 90s technology, so it didn't look quite right.
Right.
But, it was exciting to see all the new stuff, all the the pop. It was exciting to see it polished up on the big screen after keeping it on VHS for so long. Although we did eventually get
look at that laser disc, baby.
Laser disc.
Holy
yes.
cow. Do you have to flip those over halfway through the movie?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, you do.
Yes. These were she worked at a university that had a big Laserdisc collection, and at the end, you could see you in there. When they were upgrading their equipment, they were like, "Do you want this old Laserdisc player?" Because no one was buying them. So
yes, I did.
And then when this became available, we were like, well, we got to get it in that format. So we probably got like a dozen different formats over the decades.
That's awesome.
It's ridiculous.
That's very cool. Very good.
So
Yeah,
which one? Because you know, I think Empire Strikes Back had the least that was done to it outside of like the stuff with Cloud City, and I think some of the little things. I think that was it, right?
It was before the note was added. Yeah,
I think like weren't the snow speeders transparent or translucent?
Yeah.
Bits of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they cleaned all that up.
Frames in the cockpit. That was a big one.
Yep. A lot of the matte lines on the white snow
Yes.
were able to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it's funny to go back as kids. We didn't notice that, but going back.
Well,
later,
and that was going to be the question I asked because I did, and I don't know
Yeah,
if I was
same.
that weird kid.
No.
But like, especially with the snow speeders in Empire, I noticed in that the columns on the cockpit as it came down, that ship would pass, and you'd see that little shadow or the line or whatever. I did catch those,
Nerds.
but guilty as charged. I mean, we're all here on a Friday night drinking, talking about Star Wars. So
This is true. None of us are out doing things other than talking about Star Wars. So
Chick
good point.
magnets. Yeah.
celebrating birthdays too early.
Right. Yes.
Like, which one is it? Okay.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, Brian, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for waiting. We have some people waiting in the back. Please continue to hang out with us, and please come back again soon.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
And we definitely will set up that tour of that back wall there sometime in the future. So
no doubt.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
May the force be with you. See ya.
See ya.
All right, bye.
Well, we're just going to keep this party going. We're going to take one more call, then we're going to take a break and then keep talking. But before we go to the break, I'm going to bring in our next caller.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hey.
TikTok sensation, Darth Chaco. How are you, man?
I am doing fantastic. It's been a pretty cool week for me, especially with Star Wars.
Yeah. What
yeah,
can you share
I
with
saw
us?
you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing I can actually talk about right now.
Oh,
But,
man. Well, I can't wait.
No, so you guys were talking special editions, and that really holds a special place in my heart because that's what got me into the franchise. I wouldn't be making Star Wars content if we didn't have the special editions. That's what made me have all these playground fights with my friends on like who would win and all this stuff. And it was just magical. Of course, I was the weird kid who preferred the special editions. But I honestly feel like the bad changes are there, right? There are some having a big dinosaur walk in front of the screen, like for what seems like an eternity is odd. But especially Empire Strikes Back, having so much depth and being able to see Cloud City and all that stuff was just beautiful. I was 10 in 97, and so this was just the perfect time for me to get hooked into it.
You were perfect.
And, and honestly, I'd seen Star Wars before. Like my mom had an old VHS tape of The Empire Strikes Back that I'd seen a million times, but it never connected with me until I was able to see the special editions, especially in theater. And that's what really carried like my fandom forward. And some of the changes, like, like the Emperor not being the weird thing with
the monkey mask
with goggles. Yeah. A huge improvement. My humble opinion.
Yep. And it was interesting too, because it really, and I want to ask you, because you are, like you said, you were kind of in that perfect age range. Seeing Rogue One back in theaters when they were preparing for Andor reminded me, because a lot of times with the Star Wars movies, you see them in the theaters, you get that first couple weeks of like going as many times as you can, and then they become home experiences, and then you're reminded of the. I do need to stick to my guns. I really do think that as much as I want another Star Wars movie, I can live with where we are story wise. I'm not so sure that I'm not ready for another movie, but there is something to having seen these movies 100 times at home and then seeing them on the big screen. My son saw Rogue One with me when it first came out, but he doesn't remember it because he was small and I was probably irresponsible for bringing him at that age. But going back into the theater to see Rogue One was a completely different experience for him. And he's 10, just like you, Shaka, when you saw them, the originals. It's such an important thing to see that huge expanse of everything that's going on in your face. And you also realize, and this is why I'd love to see like The Mandalorian or Andor, or even perhaps Kenobi. I mean, we did get to see Kenobi, those of us who were Celebration at the premiere on the big screen. But seeing them on the big screen is
Also
such a
got
big
to see
difference.
Andor, but
Yes, you did. Yes.
Oh yeah,
I was gonna say some of us, not being me, got to see Andor.
But that do you think that it was? Do you think your Star Wars experience would have been? And you sort of alluded to it, but it changed as a result, didn't it, of seeing them on the big screen?
It changed. But I think that's more era dependent. You know what I mean? Like the big screen was the big screen. You could only experience certain pieces of content there. I honestly think that streaming services have surpassed the big screen with the ability to tell compelling stories, with some exceptions. You know, I think, Kenobi, for instance, would have been better as like a two-parter, too long, almost like two movie length things. But you can just get so much more out of the story, Also, audiences have changed. Like when I was young, I just like Return of the Jedi was my favorite when I was young. That's since changed, but like as a kid, I never stopped to be like, this is the dumbest plan I've ever heard. It's like, all right, so you're gonna go in there, you're gonna get caught, and then you're gonna go in there and get caught, and then I'm gonna go in there and get caught, and right before they execute us, we'll escape. And that's the plan. You're like, that's not a plan. The hell? Also, I have to say, how dare you disrespect Jedi Rocks? I spent a lot of my childhood going, ooh,
Listen, I think that's that old man, young man dividing line right there.
Yeah. Like when that song first came on, and I'm in the theater, I think it was with my brother, and I was in the theater, I'm just like, something's not right. I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be doing this to this song. Something's weird. But I at that point, we had so many years with Latinx, so I just prefer that one. That is the only kind of like hard line I make with any of that stuff.
All right, I have a question for you guys. Yub Nub versus Victory Celebration.
I was just gonna go there. It's got to be Yub Nub.
Yub Nub.
Victory Celebration
for sure. Oh,
Victory Celebration is a better song, unlike Jedi Rocks, but it is a better song. But I feel like Yub Nub, I don't know. It fits more with the cartoon Ewoks.
Yeah.
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 What about you, Chucko? Where are you?
I have flip-flopped because when you listen to Yub Nub, I'm a musician, and Yub Nub has like a killer bass line that just like kind of comes out of nowhere. And you're just like, God, it's got a groove on it, But
and you've got two bass players on the screen right now. We're with you.
I'm mostly a drummer, but I dabble in a little bit of everything. Victory Celebration is a celebration of the entire galaxy.
Yep.
We even see different parts of the galaxy, and I don't know if you guys remember when we see Naboo and stuff like that. I was like, where is this? Where are these places? Because we had never seen any of them on screen before. But Yub Nub, if you think about it, it's just the Ewoks celebrating having a lot of meat to eat. They're eating people. Like they don't know.
Yes,
they don't know the conflict.
They've filled their stores for the winter.
That's what it is.
The song is literally "We Eating Good." That's like
you can't tell me that Luke is over there watching his father on the pyre. You can't tell me some Ewoks weren't peeking out like
you're overcooking them.
Can get some of those burn ins.
That's great. That is awesome.
Yeah. There was such a sense of finality to the victory celebration song for me, where I was so taken aback when it first came on, when I first watched it in the theater, and I was like, this is perfect. I was like, I love Yub Nub, but this victory celebration theme is just perfect. And it's still got a dope bass line too.
That's true.
Yeah, it doesn't hit as quite as hard.
No.
Victory celebration. Yeah.
Oh, and then one other thing one last thing I wanted to add, because I know there was always a big, Han shot first versus he didn't, and that stayed in the fandom. It's still in the fandom today, but it was like a lot of visceral hate
right
back in the day. Actually in our community there's a lot of younger ones, and so I got a whole group of us together to watch The People versus George Lucas, so that they understood what was going on then. And then half of them were like, oh, people are saying the exact same things right now, like verbatim. It's crazy.
It's like poetry. It rhymes.
But if you jump into the archive books, there is the original script of that scene. Han was the only person to shoot.
Han was the only person that shot.
Like, he just straight up executed.
And it's so interesting because I dug into this as well, getting ready for this week, because we've heard it so much over the years that it becomes like false memory. Like, well, was it this or was it that? Like, which one was the thing? And there was the whole thing where, I think it was in 2015, in an interview, George Lucas said his original intent was that Greedo would shoot first and that Han, would get him, whatever. But exactly like you said, but you go back to that earliest versions of those scripts, Han Solo is the only one that shot. And I mean, I'm assuming it's because I'm an OT kid, but to me, as a kid, that cemented what a badass Han Solo was. That was the whole thing. He knew, he was ready. We honestly get the callback to it in Solo when he faces off with Woody Harrelson at that, that closing ending scene. Like, Woody didn't give him a shot and he dodged, and he did what he had to do. He knew he had been pushed to a point. And so it's always been fascinating to me, that point in particular, the weird head dodge, just all of it.
They made a lot of really janky change, because they've made edits to it like 6 or 7 more times after that. I especially when they added CG Jabba. I don't know if you remember how bad it was originally with him trying to climb up the tail and go back down it. It was rough. So I'm happy we got this movie.
And the goofy,
and that's my number one. That's my number one in the entire in the entire special editions. My number one pain point is the Jabba scene in that docking bay, because it eliminates the mystique of Jabba on so many levels. Like, we hear in New Hope, Jabba's got a bounty on me. We've got we've got it. This guy Han Solo, and Brian said it talking about the shooting. It kept his character cloudy. It's not certain whether he'd help Luke or the rebellion. This is this mysterious, roguish character who's got a huge bounty on his head, and he's trying to cure that, and he's trying to deal with these things. It made Jabba look super weak. One, that Jabba came to him in person, because Mafia Dons,
Jabba wouldn't
don't do that.
Jabba wouldn't come
Dons don't do that. I've watched a lot of Sopranos. You go to the Don. The Don doesn't come to you. If the Don comes to you, it's over with. It's a different movie. It's a different story. But then, and again, I know they had to problem solve him walking around the actor and whatever, but the stepping on the tail and the cartoonish eyes getting big, that's not Jabba. If he are so afraid of him, Han Solo's not stepping on his tail if he's that afraid of him. Yeah, it's not. That was always my biggest problematic thing with all of the special editions, was the Jabba Han scene.
There's a couple of dialogue changes that I was and it's subtle, but it doesn't. After the fight with Luke and after the Vader fight with Luke on Bespin, and Vader's going, has his troopers behind him, and he says, in the special edition, he says, "Alert my Star Destroyer to prepare for my arrival."
Yes.
I was like, because when he just says, "Bring my shuttle," and the way that he says it, and he's angry and he feels like he's failed, and that's what I took from it.
Yep.
You know, I don't know what you guys think. Like which one of those lines you like better?
I'm with you. I think that any of the extensions were just purely so George could play with his toy box. And I think it hurt a little bit. Just it's like the Ronto walking in front for too long. You know, there was, but yeah. Go ahead, Chocolate. You have an opinion.
Oh, you know, I don't recall that change personally. So that's for a little bit before my time, but I was going to mention, I don't know where you guys are on this, on a good portion of the special editions being needing to make a certain percentage of change so it qualifies as a different movie because of the whole ex-wife thing.
Right.
You know.
Interesting.
That
was my understanding of it. Is in order to separate that,
to separate Marsha from the editing and how it, lined up. The rumor was there was a certain percentage of it had to change in order for it to be a different thing and for him to have an impact and an effect. And I don't know if we'll ever know, obviously, because those contracts and deals and things are rumored and shrouded and whatever. But it's interesting because I saw somebody in the chat said, where did it go? Somebody said they thought, JD said, I thought Return of the Jedi was the least modified. And I feel like Empire was the least modified. I feel like New Hope got a lot of changes. I feel like Jedi got a pretty significant amount, especially Jabba's palace. Like, there's a Doug that walks through the middle of, Jabba's palace. Like we get a Doug at some point because of the Phantom Menace. Like, there's a lot of that kind of stuff.
But that wasn't even special edition though. That was
right. No, that was later.
Special.
Yeah.
Special.
That was special.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would argue that it feels that way because it had the least egregious changes. As far as what actually changed, I couldn't tell you, but I do feel like Jabba's palace probably has the most changes, like per square inch.
Yes. Well, Chaco, we are going to keep on moving. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I hope you come back and join us again sometime. This was great.
Yeah,
and now
it's always fun.
As I watch you anyway on social media, now I'm really curious to see what your good Star Wars news is. I can't wait to see what's going on with you. You're one of the good ones out there, man. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you again soon.
I appreciate it. Have a good one, guys.
See ya.
All right. We have some more callers waiting to join us. The special edition conversation is just getting going because I still have some opinions as well. I know Nick and Chris do.
Yes, as a matter of fact.
And when we come back, we'll continue this conversation and take some more of your calls on Force Connect.
Revenge of the Sith acting challenge. I play Obi-Wan, you play Anakin. You're the blue line.
No.
Let's go.
No.
You were the chosen one.
No, this is a FaceTime call, buddy. I think
It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them.
No, you definitely have the wrong number.
Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness.
I'm not even sure what you're talking about, but thank you for calling. Check who you're trying to call. You got the wrong number, and don't be so upset about it. I'm sorry. You just have the wrong number. It happens. It's happened.
You were my brother, Anakin.
No, I'm not even Anakin, and I don't know who you are.
I loved you.
Oh, hey, easy. Listen, I don't feel the same way. No, don't do that. Don't do that. No, I'm so sorry. I hope you find who you're trying to call, though. Wait, where are you going?
And we're back.
You laugh every time.
We are back, and we are talking Star Wars special editions and seeing the movies in the theater for the first time for some people. It's going back for the first time for many people. But we do have a caller waiting to speak to us in the back who has been very patient. So let me bring them in.
Grief Karga said you were coming.
Do we have Angry Tasty Cakes with us?
Yeah.
All right.
Camera,
Yes.
Camera is not working.
Don't sweat the
okay.
camera. That's great. We're glad you're here. How are you?
I'm here. What a day in Star Wars land.
Every day is a little bit of what did we call it last week? A buffet of natural disasters.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Today was the dessert. So
yeah. What? Which I hesitate to ask which tragedy we're talking about today.
Oh, Wikipedia. That can be for another time.
Yeah, that's definitely for another time. My goodness. Yep. Oh my gosh. Yep. So what do you got for us on special editions?
Yeah, to kind of mirror what was already said, but I'm 30 years old. I was born in 92. I never had the ability to go to the theater or to see the premieres or anything like that. So like my first ever introduction to Star Wars was the special edition.
Right.
And I think I was 6 years old by the time my uncle deemed it necessary to show me because he thought it was too violent, but I'm like, okay. So I saw it about a year after they released, and by then everyone had already been talking about it, so but I don't remember much, but I remember seeing it for the first time, and the first image that always pops in my head is the Sandcrawler heading over the dune.
Yep.
And then I saw like the Ronto and the swoop bike, right? And I gotta say the swoop bike I really liked. I did not like the Ronto.
I like the swoop bike because of Shadows of the Empire.
Right. Dash
And
Rendar was
that was
underrated.
intentional. And I read something leading up to this, again, as I was digging in, doing my research, aside from the things that I already knew, that some of the things related to the special editions were originally intended to connect to, look at that. There we go.
Genius.
Just like that.
Yes.
Shadows of the Empire was originally a part of the connection to some of that. So, that feeling is not invalid at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, like my age bracket, right, like seeing that kind of thing and then growing up with the prequels immediately after, it kind of cemented like, okay, now we have the full stretch of the story, right? And kind of looking back on it, I got to say, I'm not a fan of the special edition as much as I was when I finally got to see the originals on VHS. I went out when I was like in college and I was like, screw it, I'm going to go to my local store. I went to some music hole in the wall thing and they had all the VHS tapes. So I was like, all right, I'll buy them, right? If they're from like 93.
Right.
And so I like got to see both. And for what it's worth, I think both are valid in what they were trying to do. Like you have the original uncut version, which is like, the purist, the OG, the one that people grew up on in the 70s and 80s. But then you have the special edition that for every good thing they did something stupid that put it right back to where it was. I feel like for Lucas, it was like playing Chutes and Ladders with him. Every good role he had would put him ahead, and then he would just make a change that would send him right back down. So when it came to like A New Hope, I feel like A New Hope was the most like egregiously changed one out of the three.
Yep.
Yeah.
I loved Empire because seeing Ralph McQuarrie's like work really like come through and be retouched and have it in high def at the time, like you got to see like how much work that man really put into those matte paintings. And then like Return of the Jedi, man, Jedi Rocks is a classic, first of all.
So funny. But I did not realize until this show how much of a dividing line that really is. That's really interesting. That's cool, though.
But seeing, like, when the rebels finally show up, and Lando calls in all the wings to attack the Death Star, right? And you see all the TIE fighters coming at you, and you just have this jarring pop-in of TIE interceptors all over the screen. And you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be paying attention to, because as they're flying at you, you just have the pop in and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like I understand that they're fighting an entire fleet, but I don't know what I'm looking at. And it's incredibly jarring in a lot of ways, but I don't know. It's one of those things I'm torn,
It's interesting because, in the late 90s, you had, I always think of Independence Day. as sort of setting a bar as to what air battles should look like. And that was my exact comment about Independence Day was I had no idea what was going on. There was too much on the screen. It was like all over the place.
All the new Transformers movies. It's just a bunch of crashing into each other.
Yep. And I think they got it right in Rogue One because it was a nice balance with this when the TIE fighters come off the platform. It's like
I am willing to say I am willing to say that the space battles in Rogue One may be the best space battles in all of Star Wars. Like that, there's legit like it's good stuff there. It holds its weight.
I think what helped it. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm still processing this.
Well, I think when it came to like when you mentioned Rogue One too, it was the color change. Like if you look at the two sides, Empire, Rebellion, right? The Rebellion had like lighter gray, almost white ships when they were flying in. The Empire was like black, very dark gray. So I feel like it helped kind of differentiate like who was going at who. And like they kind of flip-flopped it again too, which made me keep it on my toes because when you look at the movie trope of like good guys always come from the left, you know, and like the bad guys always come from the right. But then in Rogue One, you had the Rebellion coming from the right and the Empire coming from the left. And I was like, okay, now I have to pay attention here. And it really kind of helped keep it straight. So, weird.
So now you're of that generation that came after the originals, but you've seen the originals on VHS. What's your overall opinion? I mean, do you think? I don't even know what the right question is. Like, where do you come in on those? Because they're a mess in some cases, but at the time they were
top notch,
fantastic. Yeah.
I'm 50-50 split.
Yeah,
like I said, for everything that Lucas did right, he did something stupid. Like I'm gonna break this down movie by movie. New Hope, get rid of Jabba's scene. Get rid of it. Doesn't need to be in there. You're basically 100%. Just reiterating the whole Greedo thing again for 15 minutes.
Well, but if we did that, there wouldn't be Boba Fett going, "Hey, everybody."
How
you doing?
Breaking the fourth
for
wall.
all of his like 3-second screen time.
I'm Boba Fett. Remember me? Yeah.
Hey, kids.
The whole career from Mark Anthony Austin. Wait, that's a different
one. But like, get rid of the Ronto. Keep the swoop bike. You know, keep the Sandcrawler. I like the original blue screen effect of the 1977 cut better than I did how they redid it in the new one. Felt more like I don't want to say lived in, but it felt more like campy, and I feel like I appreciate that more. Like it wasn't trying to take itself too seriously, you know. Empire dialogue didn't need to be changed. Like I agree with you when you said like bring me my shuttle. I was like, oh damn, he's pissed, you know. But in the remake, he's just like, oh, prepare, and I'm like, dude, you're not formal. Come on, you're not formal. You're mad. You're
the boss.
Whether
you tell them
it or
what
not.
to do.
I think each one of those dialogue changes in Empire Strikes Back could have stayed the way they were. Like when Luke says to R2 when he gets swallowed up and spit out by that, by the swamp monster, he's like, you're lucky you didn't taste very good. What's wrong with that line? But it changes to like, you're lucky to get out of there.
I never noticed they changed that. Holy cow!
Yes,
they changed his snark. They got rid of like his snarky farm boy response.
And then they when Luke and when he decided not when he rejected Vader's offer and just let himself fall in Cloud City. They kept it silent because he knew what he was doing and he fell and he silently fell. And, when they repurposed Palpatine's scream from Return of the Jedi and used that for this one, I was like,
nope.
Okay, that is not poetry and that does not rhyme.
Yeah.
But that's
the actual opposite.
Yeah. And like that's the thing is just like, I think Empire was the best done out of the three. If you were going to remaster,
agreed.
I love the scene of when they're flying into Cloud City and you get that cloud car firing off the warning shot and you actually get to see like the pilots in the cloud car pull over.
You paint it against, and you've mentioned several times, like the Ronto, as you come into Tatooine and you come into, you know, that down thoroughfare, the Ronto, the droid, and hitting the one droid on the head and it falls on the ground. Like, that's too cartoony. That's too much. That's a step too far. But to get that vista scene of Bespin and that cloud car coming through, because it gives you the grandeur of this beautiful place that Lando is running, and that is a part, you know, as he's saying to Leia, you know, this little, you know, whatever in the skies. And like, it sets it up in a different way. And it's almost Empire fixed the technical things that George wanted to fix. New Hope and Jedi were editorial things, and a lot of them didn't really work. At least for you know, for me personally, that's a personal opinion.
I think he knew how much Empire really meant to a lot of people. Like when it first came out, let's be real, no one liked Empire. Everyone was panning it. They were all like, "This is garbage. Like this isn't Star Wars," you know. But then, like as time went on, people were like, "No, that's definitely the best one out of the bunch," right? So I feel like he knew how much that movie really started to mean for a lot of people, and he's like, "Oh, if I touch this up too much in the wrong ways." You know, but like A New Hope and Return were like, what can I get away with, and how much can I push like the computers we have nowadays to do CGI, and like how much can I really push this forward? You know, so like that, it's weird to me, like thinking back on it. But I will say though that when they put them on Disney Plus and they upscaled them to like 4K, I can appreciate them more.
Right.
As weird as it is to say, because now like, to quote another content creator, Bricks and Screws, okay, I love seeing the bricks and screws that are holding this universe together. Okay.
Yep.
Like, I think that's amazing, because even in the original, they were all cobbled together. You know, like the rebellion stole ships and are keeping them together with duct tape and spit. Okay. Like, it's cool seeing that, because you didn't really see that in the 90s and prior, because the definition just wasn't there.
Right.
So like, I can appreciate them more now that they're on a streaming service.
Yep. And you can take the time with
them. Does that make sense?
Yep. 100%. Yep. All right. So what's your parting shot on the special editions before we get you out of here, and look forward to speaking to you next week?
If I had to give it an actual review, it's one of those that you should watch it. You should watch it. Yeah. Like, it's not one that you should skip, because if you love Star Wars, you're going to appreciate it.
Yep.
Now, just because you love it though doesn't mean it's above criticism. And like, they're definitely worthy of criticism, but they're worth a watch, and you're just gonna have fun with it, you know.
That's great. Well, cool. Well, thank you for your patience and hanging out with us for a while, and getting on. Always love your opinions. I'm really enjoying getting to talk to you here as well as on Twitter. So this has been a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have another hot take for you too, by the way, and it won't involve Palpatine.
Nice.
Okay. We're gonna do a monthly hot take show.
Tease.
I think, so. All right, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk.
All right, we are down to our last caller of the night. Perspectives you're hearing from those of us who this was a return to Star Wars. Some people it was their first time seeing Star Wars, so it's been a very interesting ride. But speaking of an interesting ride, let's bring in one last caller for the night, the partner of Josh, who was with us last week. But let's bring him in.
Goodness gracious me.
Anka, Pachuha Pinky.
Well,
Andy from Holocron. How are you?
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here, man. How has you been?
Excellent. I'd like to first start off by saying it's been too long since chatting with all you guys in an official capacity.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And of course, I wanted to just give a quick history here of the special editions in my experience. You guys were talking toys earlier, and it got me fired up. But I remember in 1991, 1992, going from these, right, which included the not for sale, not for sale purposes. This just came as kind of a
The
bonus.
making of.
Yeah. So these went to college with me, by the way.
Nice.
I'm right.
And I graduated from those onto
The
this.
gold.
Yes.
Ba, ba,
Got him. Got him.
ba,
Oh, hold on.
ba,
Let me
ba.
open them up. Yep.
Beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. So
had to get the widescreen because it also came. It also
I got
came
widescreen.
full screen. Yeah.
Yes. And this was not my first experience with Star Wars, nor was it my last, obviously, but it was a stopgap in between where, we get 7 more minutes of content, or some ridiculously small number of minutes of added, features or remastered. The THX remastering was a big deal in the 1991 copies. Like, okay, the sound quality is just going to blow your mind, especially if you get it on Laserdisc. And so it was better. It wasn't too much better probably, but it was better. But the special editions, it wasn't. I went in thinking, and this is when I'm in my late teens. I remember thinking that, this will be cool, and then all of the added stuff was like they added it that year. It wasn't like they were adding old footage of Hamill and Ford and Fisher, and that kind of bummed me out. Initially, it was like, I thought we were getting some, instead I was getting cartoon-ish feeling kind of, but it's okay. It's okay. The perspective that I have now was that George Lucas was just messing around, getting ready for the prequels, seeing what he could do, and in his other projects too, like the Young Indiana Jones stuff. There was some digital stuff that he was doing in there, and Lucasfilm. No, wait. Anyway, they were just messing around a little bit, and so I understand the purpose behind them. Seeing that the technology was ready for what his vision for the prequels was, and it wasn't, and you could see that. But I think that gave him a starting ground, or at least a platform to say, okay, this is what we're capable of right now. We need to develop this, and this, so that when we do come back strong, it's not going to look clunky. It's not going to feel cartoonish. Yeah. So,
all right. So let me ask you this question.
Okay.
Kind of following that train of thought. One of the arguments with the special editions with George Lucas is he made a movie in 1976. It came out in 77. It was late 75, 76. They're shooting. He's literally inventing new technologies. We're getting, all the behind the scenes things we've seen of, driving a Jeep past a ping pong table with model kits cannibalized to make the Death Star run.
Right.
So as a creator, as an artist, as the person who has a vision, to be limited by your time and then to jump forward 20 years and to see advancements in technology, the question is, does it devalue the property if 20 years later you have the ability to make it look more like what you envisioned, but you were handcuffed at the time 20 years ago?
I think since George was the one, heading up those innovations, it wasn't that he was not so much dissatisfied with the original trilogy. I think he just was really looking forward to doing his next thing, but he couldn't do it in the way he wanted quite yet. And so he was laying the foundation for all of the advances required to do what he wanted to do next. And the best way that he knew to employ some of those things was in his own creation, right? Sure. Touch it up. because he knew people would go see it. It was wildly popular even 10 years later. So, like, oh, you throw, 10 more minutes, advertise, a few more minutes of content, and nerds like me will go out and watch it.
And to be perfectly fair to George Lucas, but he's not the only one that did that. We've gotten multiple cuts of Blade Runner. We've gotten multiple cuts of other films, other things that, again, as technology allows, as a contract expiring, you can do what you want now because we don't own it anymore. Like, we've gotten different cuts of Snyder, DC. Like, there's so many different versions of
Close Encounters.
Yeah, Close Encounters. Exactly. Yep. Like, this isn't strictly a Star Wars specific thing. Brazil, Brian put that in the comments. Like, we've gotten so many different properties. It's interesting to see the vision of an artist versus the limitations, whether it's technological, budgetary, production, whatever it might be. And then to be able to go in at a later time and go, like, what if we had Indiana Jones, the special editions? What if we had those 3 movies where Steven Spielberg was able to go in and go, yeah, I want to get rid of the weird monkey jungle swinging on the vine scene from Crystal Skull. We want to go in and make the heart pulling season from Temple of Doom look different. Like, does that change how I feel about Indiana Jones? It depends on what you do to it, because the Han Solo thing in New Hope, in the thing with Jabba, like, to me, that's the biggest, most egregious error in the whole thing, but it differs from person to person. So art, artist, interpretation, obviously it's all very fluid.
Yeah. I don't think it's a stretch to say that George Lucas did this for selfish purposes. He just wanted to see what it would look like, with all of the things he was putting his effort into, what he was capable of doing. And like I said, some things worked really well. I think the landscapes, when you said like Bespin on Tatooine, when it filled in buildings and made things look more grandiose, I think that stuff worked really well. And some of the other things, didn't so much. But that's exactly what he needed to see and what he needed to know, people's response from to move forward in 1999 with the Phantom Menace. So,
right. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I've got it's not real well lit, but I've got the special edition posters. There's Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back here.
Yep.
And there's Star Wars right there. And I got those from a guy that worked for THX. And he said he got them from a theater that he had installed the THX sound system in.
Oh, wow.
And did anyone else just hear that THX sound in their head? Or was it just me?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. That's it. That's the one.
Clip that. But no, I got all 3 of those. This is just a little collecting side note here. I got all 3 of those. This was about 7 years ago. All 3 of those plus the prequel, all 3 prequel posters by Drew Struzan, and they're nice, heavy framed, like they're well done, for $200. And shoot, you can't frame one of them as nicely as they are framed for $200. If you go to like Hobby Lobby or something, it's going to cost that by itself. Yeah. So, always been a big fan. Well, actually, you know what? They're all Drew Struzan made. Those are all his style, I think. So, yeah. Shout out to Drew.
Fantastic. Drew Struzan, the man.
Is that a Revenge right behind your head, bro?
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Is that Revenge?
Yeah. Yes, got that blue Darth Vader lightsaber.
Yeah. That shows up in a few posters, but they got it right for the special edition poster. They switched the colors.
But they gave, and this is going to be what we're going to send you out on. They're making that Black Series announce this week, the Revenge of the Sith Darth Vader figure comes with a red lightsaber. It doesn't come with the blue set. Like that's that one detail. Like, you
See,
could've
now I
gotten
don't want
just
it.
right.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I need that thing.
I don't know. For $33, is it worth it? That's the question. That's the question.
It is the question.
I mean, no, that's how much it's going to cost at Celebration. So for schmucks like me that aren't going to London for a Celebration, it's probably going to cost $100. So
that's fair.
Not worth
totally
it.
fair.
Yeah.
Unless we find some friends
Yeah.
who are gonna go and maybe can get it for us.
Yeah. Well,
anyone out there going to Celebration?
Call us. Hook me up. Andy,
Yeah.
it's so good to see you tonight. It's always good when we get a chance to catch up. Like you said, we've been overdue,
JD,
so we're glad that you were here to join us tonight, and we hope you have a great rest of your weekend.
Hey, thanks. I was just I had to take a break from Scotty was live streaming on Instagram, DJing in his, I think it was his tool shed. It was the most Scotty thing ever.
Makes sense.
He's got headphones on and he's doing this, and there's
Yep.
like gas cans and weed killer and stuff on shelves behind him.
It totally tracks.
Yeah. So I went from that
awesome
to this,
Thanks, JD.
and my night is complete.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well, thank you so much, man. It's so great to see you. We'll definitely catch up soon.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, man.
Well, why don't we take one more real quick break, and then when we come back, we'll give our closing thoughts on the special edition. So hang out with us. We are going to be talking about special editions a little bit more here on Force Connect, part of Streaming Star Wars.
Now, a lot of you are familiar with this guy right here. But what you might not know is that he's been forced to handle some serious abuse at the hands of what used to be the Empire. Now, I gotta warn you, what you're about to see may be a little triggering.
You know how it is. I said, shut up. What is that thing? Well, we should check and see if it's hurt. The last thing that you want is to give Gideon a bag and have him open it up and find whatever is Okay, look, here you go. See? Take a peek. Everything's fine. What is that? I don't know, it's a pet or something. A pet? Ow! Serves you right.
Serves you right? That's all he's got to say after a fellow trooper punches a child? This is not right. These guys need to be identified. This took place on Navarro. Let's find these guys.
And we're back, and we are we had an amazing conversation this evening with some really good friends, catching up, talking about these Star Wars special editions. What are your closing thoughts on special editions, Nick? What do you got?
Ooh, what do I have? I don't know if we have time for everything I have.
Chris, what do you have?
moving right along. First of all, Andy and Brian, we've had a couple of folks on tonight that talked about all the different physical media editions they have, the laser discs, the VHS.
Yep.
I've got some of my VHSs. I'm missing some. I will say that I also have, and I'm showing it to the stream right now, and if you're listening to audio, I have this SanDisk USB that is the despecialized editions. It is the original editions, all three on this one USB disc that a friend of mine made for me several years ago, because we've also had that going back and in between. And like, now that we have Disney Plus, shouldn't you be able to click a tab and pick the version you want to watch? The special edition, the original version, the whatever it is. No, it's definitely not going to happen. So I've got these. And if I need to plug that USB in and go back to my original childhood, I can do that. Big thoughts, big moments. It really is. I hate the Jabba scene. That's my biggest flaw with the entire special editions is the Jabba scene in A New Hope. Han, it takes the power away from the fear of who Jabba the Hutt is. That's what it ultimately boils
I'll agree
down
with
to
that.
for me. It takes the fear away from the big bad. He's a guy that he comes to you and then you get to step on his tail and there's no repercussions. Like,
Right.
is he that big of a deal? Is he that bad? I love the technical changes, the stuff in Empire, the snow, the space. You get to see it in those documentaries, not seeing through the cockpits, the frames, all that kind of stuff. But I'm not mad at any of it. And that's the thing. Like, I love Star Wars. This is another step in our Star Wars journey, is that we went from the original trilogy to the special editions, to the next special editions, to the super special, super excellent special editions, the McClunky editions, the next one that's going to come up 2 years from now when they change out, somebody else's voice for somebody else's voice. We had, Boba Fett's voice at one point was this person, and then it's Tamora Morrison, because we change. It keeps evolving, and that's kind of the neat thing about Star Wars, is that it can change.
Yeah, I think and I think opinions change. I think the way we approach Star Wars changes. I think the way people get involved in Star Wars change. So I think you're right. I think I think that's what made it so hard. It was the first change. It was the first time we saw a change in Star Wars, and like we were.
I'm going to throw I'm sorry, Pete. I'm going to throw a shout out to this comment from Garrison Rifen. Give me the 77, 81, 97, 04, 11, and 19 cuts on separate discs. My wish that will never come true.
That would be
especially the 81.
All those changes,
especially 81 because it's 1980.
Ooh, snap!
Whoa, nice.
Sorry, go ahead, Pete.
I don't know what I was talking about, but let's hear what Chris has to say, because I'm not even sure at this point.
All right, you can call me a shill, call me a George Lucas dick rider or whatever, but whatever he put in, I'm like, well, that's what he wanted, and it's Star Wars now, so I'm cool with it. Han shooting, Han and Greedo having that, their exchange. I'm like, well, that's what he wants now, so that's what it is. Jedi rocks. Well, if that's what he wants now, that's what it is. Yeah, there are a few things that maybe I didn't so much agree with, like I said, with you hearing Palpatine's voice as Luke falls. I thought that was a little out of place, maybe. Not maybe, definitely was. Victory Celebration, I think, was a fantastic addition to it, and adds like finality to close. I think that's his cousin's ship. But all in all, I thought they were fantastic. Like, doing the theatrical releases with those was definitely experience. And just like I remember leaving the theater after seeing A New Hope for the special edition for A New Hope, and just like being utterly amazed, and like I felt like I was back to being like a small child, because I was 97. I was, what was I don't know, 22. And just and it just made me feel like a kid again. It was definitely like seeing it for the first time all over again, and I couldn't wait to go back to the theater to see it again, even though I've got it on VHS and whatnot, like in the house and all that stuff.
Sure.
And it's a hot take. I guess the hot take would be if you put both in front of me, original or special edition, I'm probably gonna lean towards watching the special edition ones, because that's more fully a real, like for George Lucas, a more fully realized one.
And they're cleaner, and they're done.
Right.
They're sharpened up, and I can't disagree with you there. Yep.
I agree. I'm willing to sacrifice the parts I hate for the parts that make it that much better.
100%. Absolutely.
There's still scenes from Return of the Jedi that for me could not be replicated. I'm glad that he didn't touch these. There are a couple scenes with that final battle, the space battle, that to this day, no matter how many times I watch it, takes my breath away every time.
The Falcon leaving the Death Star and the explosions coming behind it, and that's the single best visual. That may be the best visual sequence in Star Wars for me.
There's that, and then the other one is the X-wings with the Falcon behind them as they're about to go into the to the exhaust port, and just like weaving in between like the little buildings and everything, and then going in. Oh, Every
So
time
good.
I gotta watch this once we're done. I'm
Yeah,
gonna watch it.
I know what we're all doing when we get done tonight. Speaking
Yeah.
of getting done tonight, we're going to wrap this up. This has been an amazing hour and a half. We've had so much fun. We've had amazing callers. We're so thankful for everybody that called in. We're thankful for everybody who watched. We're thankful for everybody who's going to listen when we drop this in the audio on Monday. Before we get out of here, Chris.
Yep.
Broaxium, what do you guys have coming up this week?
Well, we've got new Shooting the Poodle on Sunday. I think there's a new one coming up. And that'll be live Sunday nights. We have that going on. Let's see. And also this coming week, we have 3 new comics coming out. We have High Republic. We have Darth Vader from Greg Pak. And then we have Hidden Empire number, I think it's 3. Hidden Empire, which is the final chapter in the Crimson Dawn trilogy that Charles Soule has been doing. So I'm really excited for this book. So yeah, we have those. We'll probably be putting out some more little videos, some more unrefined bro axioms, talking about Bad Batch and other things. Because I know Dan's been wanting to do like what his favorite space battle is, and that's probably either going to be Return of the Jedi or Rogue One. One of the
we'll
two.
Need to have him come on and argue with Nick about this. So.
That's right. Yeah. We'll fight about it.
Because I mean it's the Return of the Jedi one. But so we have that, and I think that's going to be it for us. Oh, and then Pro Axiom Gaming with Nick with Roke and Dan is going to be coming up. Yeah, a lot of fun going on this week.
Awesome,
excellent.
And for streaming Star Wars this Thursday on Around the Galaxy, you are going to get our Deborah Wilson interview, the audio version. And we just dropped this past Thursday, conversation with David O'Reilly, who is the location scout for Rogue One, for the Rise of Skywalker, for Solo, and a whole bunch of other movies. Really interesting stuff there. But it's been a good couple of weeks. We got some great episodes coming up for Around the Galaxy. So for everybody who joined us, thank you so much. We hope we'll see you again next Friday night. If you're listening in the audio, thank you so much for hanging out with us on a Monday, and we hope your week is off to a good week. And if you're with us tonight, we hope you're about to have a great weekend. Mr. Nick, may the force be with you
always.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.